Welcome back to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into some really interesting source material you've shared with us today. It's all about a huge name in the hobby world, Tamiya.
Yeah, Tamiya. And specifically, their RC car racing history.
Exactly. Now, a lot of people, when they hear Tamiya RC, they probably think of, that iconic 1984 German national win, the Frog,
Yeah.
Michael Kleinhaus driving.
Right, the frog. Definitely a classic moment, and yeah, super memorable, but it's only part of the picture.
That's what struck me in your sources. That win was maybe an early sign, but the real story is much bigger. So this deep dive, we're calling it Beyond the Frog. We want to explore Tamiya's, often dominant presence in top-level RC racing globally.
Our mission, really, is to unpack the history from your sources. Look at the significance of Tamiya's competitive success, especially through their racing division, the Tamiya Racing Factory, TRF.
TRF, right. We'll cut through the info, pull out the key insights, maybe some surprising facts along the way.
Sounds good. So where do we start? The beginning.
Let's do it. Tamiya's entry into RC. Your sources pin it to November 1976, that 1/12 scale RC Porsche 934 Turbo.
Yeah, that car was a big deal. Your sources say it really helped kick off a massive RC boom back then.
They were known for detailed kits, right?
Yeah.
Scale models.
Exactly. Kits that just happened to move. But, as the racing scene got more serious, especially through the 80s, just modifying a hobby kit wasn't enough for the top level anymore.
You needed dedicated performance focus.
Precisely. And that's where TRF comes in.
So Tamiya Racing Factory, your sources link its formation to around 1988, coinciding with the Avante buggy.
That's right. The Avante kit number 58072. It was pretty sophisticated for the time, advanced materials, lots of adjustability in the suspension.
And TRF started as a test team for it.
Essentially, yes. But what's really key, according to your sources, is TRF's methodology. It wasn't just about building fast cars in a lab.
They were gathering data.
Meticulously. From races all over the world, driver feedback, performance data, it created this, iterative development cycle.
Yeah.
Race, learn, refine, repeat, driven by real-world results.
That makes sense. It ties right into Tamiya's whole company philosophy. First in quality around the world. Use racing as the ultimate test bed.
Exactly. And you really see that iterative process shine, especially later with touring cars in the late 90s. Racing evolved, so TRF evolved.
They developed their first pure racing prototype then.
Yeah, the TRF 414X, which then got refined into the TRF 414M around 1998. This wasn't a kit you bought off the shelf. It was purpose-built for elite competition. Showed they were really serious.
Okay, but there's also this connection back to the regular hobbyist, right? The sources talk about a symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely. Knowledge gained from, say, developing the TRF 501X off-road buggy, that high-end race machine. Some of that tech or design thinking would filter down into more accessible kits.
Like the DB01 buggy mentioned in the sources.
Exactly. That's the halo effect. Hobbyists get to buy a kit that shares some DNA with a championship winner. They get a piece of that race-proven tech.
So TRF pushed the envelope, and everyone eventually benefited.
In a way, yeah. And the sources list a whole bunch of key TRF chassis series. You've got the touring cars, TRF 414 through the current TRF 421 off-road, the TRF 201, 501, 511, all developed constantly to keep up with racing rules.
Rules like LiPo batteries, brushless motors, control tires. Always changing.
Always evolving. That's the racing world.
Okay, let's zoom out. The biggest stage, the IFM Air World Championships. Your sources point to a period where Tamiya was just incredibly dominant, particularly in 110 electric touring car, the ISTC class.
Oh, yeah. That decade from 2002 to 2012 was something else. It really kicked off with their first IFMR title.
That was 2002 in the USA.
Correct. Surakarn Chedasuriya from Thailand. He won with the Tamiya TRF 414M. That was a massive win. Huge validation for the whole TRF program and that dedicated touring car.
And it wasn't just a one-off. That started a serious run.
It really did. 4 more IFMR ISTC titles followed in that period. The TRF touring car chassis just kept evolving and kept winning.
Mark Reinhard was key here, wasn't he? From Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. He won the next 2 for Tamiya, 2004 in Florida with the TRF 415MS, and then again in 2008 in Bangkok with the TRF 416, maybe the WE version.
Shows the chassis evolution, 414 to 415 to 416. And top driving talent?
Definitely. Then Reinhard made it 3 world titles for himself and 4 for Tamiya in 2010. That was in Germany with the TRF 416X.
And the 5th title capping off that era.
That went to Gilles Groskamp from the Netherlands in 2012, driving the TRF 417X in his home country. So that's 5 world titles in ISTC between 2002 and 2012.
5 titles, 3 consecutive wins from 2008 to 2012. That's dominance.
It really is. It shows mastery of electric on-road design, that constant chassis refinement, 414M, 415MS, 416, 416X, and a strong race program.
Your sources mentioned they competed in other IFMR classes like off-road early on with the Avante finishing 7th.
Yeah, but that 2002-2012 period, it looks like ISTC was clearly their main focus for World Championship efforts, and they absolutely nailed it.
Okay, let's shift continents. Europe. The EFRA European Championships, also very prestigious. Did Tamiya have success there too?
Oh, yes. Quite a bit, actually, according to your sources, especially in 110 electric off-road.
How many titles are we talking?
The sources document 6 EFRA off-road titles.
6. Wow. Okay, break those down.
All right, we see Hupo Honeygol winning 4WD in 2007 with the Tamiya 501X. Then Mark Reinard takes the 4WD title in 2009 with the TRF 511.
So strong showings in 4WD.
Yep. But then Lee Martin from the UK comes onto the scene, and things get really interesting in 2010.
I remember seeing this in the notes. He did something special.
He pulled off the double win, won both the 2WD modified and 4WD modified EFRA titles in the same year.
That's incredible at that level. What cars was he using?
He won 2WD with the Tamiya TRF 201X. That was a relatively new buggy then, so a huge debut win for it. And he won 4WD with the TRF 511.
Proving both platforms were top tier. And his success with the 2WD buggy didn't stop there.
Not at all. He won the 2WD EFRA title again in 2011 and then completed a hat trick, winning it again in 2012, all with that TRF 201X.
3 consecutive 2WD European titles. That shows amazing synergy between driver and car.
Definitely. So even though the sources don't list IFMR world titles for Tamiya in off-road during this time, these 6 EFRA wins clearly show they were extremely competitive at the highest European level in off-road.
And what about European touring car? Did they win EFRA titles there too?
We did. It complemented their IFMR success. The sources mention wins like 2008 with the TRF 416, likely Reinard again.
Okay.
Then 2009, Gilles Greskamp won with the TRF 416 WE, and Reinard was second. A Tamiya won too.
Nice.
And in 2011, Mark Reinard won again, this time with the TRF 417. So yeah, they were very strong in European touring car as well.
All right, let's cross the pond again. North America. ROR Nationals, that's the U.S. and Canada. What did the sources say about Tamiya's success there?
Well, they definitely had some notable victories, especially early on in on-road touring car, before the full TRF prototypes really took over. David Junn, driving for Tamiya America, won the U.S. On-Road Nationals back in 1996. And interestingly, he was using the Tamiya TA03F Pro chassis.
A TA series car, not even a TRF.
Right, not the purebred racer the later TRF cars were. And Junn won again in 1997, this time the NOR-RCA U.S. Nationals, another big race, then still with that TA03F Pro.
So even with a more accessible chassis, they were winning major U.S. titles early on.
Yeah, and the sources suggest those wins probably fed valuable information back into the development pipeline for the later TRF touring cars. Real-world proof of concept, you know.
Makes sense. What about off-road in North America?
The sources highlight some strong Canadian results from 2012, the RRI 110 Off-Road Canadian Nationals.
Okay, who and what?
John Catricola, he won the 4WD modified buggy class, probably with the TRF 511 or something similar. And in 2WD mod, he was really fast, got the TQ, top qualifier.
Fastest in qualifying.
Right. And finished third overall in the final with the Tamiya TRF 201X.
Solid result. Shows the TRF buggies were competitive in Canada too. Now, your sources did mention something about the U.S. RO Nationals more recently, especially off-road.
Yeah, there's an observation that lately other manufacturers often seem more dominant in U.S. RO off-road. Brands like Team Associated, TLR, QO Show.
Why is that?
Well, the sources suggest a few factors. Intense competition within the U.S. market, some manufacturers having strong historical roots and presence there, maybe driver contracts and team focus playing a role too.
So a more complex picture than their IFMAR ISTC run.
Exactly. It shows that regional dynamics can be different. Tamiya has had success, but it's maybe not the same level of sustained dominance as seen elsewhere or in other classes. Though the sources do note Mark Reinard won a Roar Mod TC title in 2018, but I think he'd switched chassis sponsors by then.
Okay, noted. Let's head back to Japan, Tamiya's home turf.
There.
The JMRCA All Japan Championships. Highly prestigious.
Extremely. And fun fact from your sources, TRF's very first major race entry was actually the 1988 JMRCA champs with the Avante.
Full circle. And they've had wins there more recently.
Oh, yeah. Especially in the top-class Super Expert electric touring car. Mark Reinard won it in 2007 with the TRF 416. That was actually the chassis' debut win in Japan, which is pretty impressive.
Winning on debut at home, that's big. What about later years?
2015 was a banner year for them in Super Expert,
Sure.
a dominant 1-2 finish. Akio Sobo took the win and Noda Matsukura was second, both driving the Tamiya TRF 419.
Wow, a 1-2 at the All Japans. Shows the TRF 419 was dialed in.
Definitely. And the sources bring us right up to date with the 2024 JMRCAs.
Still competitive.
Very much so. Sudagota finished second in Super Expert using the latest TRF 421 chassis, and significantly, 4 of the 10 cars in the main A final were TRF 421s. Shows the car has serious pace.
That's a strong showing. Any wins at other JMRCA classes?
Yep. In 2017, Takuma Sasaki won the electric touring car open class with the Tamiya, and just this year, 2024, in the open stock class that uses controlled motors.
Tighter racing.
Right. Shuma Shinozawa, driving a TRF 421, completely dominated. 1 qualifying, won both A finals. Clean sweep.
So consistent performance on home soil across different drivers, Japanese and international like Reinhard, and across chassis generations like the 416, 419, 421, shows adaptability.
And a sustained commitment to winning at home, definitely.
Okay, one more major event highlighted in your sources, a really unique one, the Reedy Race of Champions.
Ah, yes, the Reedy Race. Invitational, super prestigious, and that heads-up racing format. Totally different challenge.
Drivers racing directly against each other in randomized heats, right?
Yeah.
Not just against the clock.
Exactly. It tests racecraft as much as outright speed. And interestingly, for many years, it was held at the Tamiya America Raceway.
That must have been an advantage.
You'd think so. The sources mention it gave the TRF team incredible track knowledge and testing time. Reinhard apparently called it one of the best tracks.
And Tamiya drivers certainly capitalized. Did they have wins before Reinhard's era?
They did. Barry Dacre won back-to-back in 2002 and 2003. Then Surakarn Chaita Surya, the 2002 world champ, won it in 2004, probably with a 414 or early 415. And Craig Drescher won in 2005.
So a strong legacy even before Mark Reinhard. But Reinhard really made his mark there, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Legendary status at the Reedy Race. Your sources credit him with 5 wins driving Tamiya TRF chassis.
5 wins at that event. That's huge. When were they?
Let's see, in 2006, likely with the TRF 415 MSX. 2007 with the TRF 415 MSXX Mark Reinhard edition, funnily enough. Then 2011 with the TRF 417.
Okay.
Then 2013, that was a particularly big year. He won with the TRF 417 V5. And Tamiya locked out the podium, a 1-2-3 finish. Akio Sobuo was second, Victor Wilk third, both also on the TRF 417 V5, just total dominance.
That came in 2015, likely with the TRF 419. So yeah, winning 5 times over nearly a decade with evolving chassis at that specific race, it just perfectly showcases his skill combined with Tamiya's consistently competitive touring car platforms.
Speed, consistency, racecraft, all tested, all proven.
Exactly. So let's try and wrap this all up. This deep dives, looking through your sources. What's the big picture on Tamiya's RC racing legacy?
Well, it's clear it's an undeniable, enduring legacy. From the Frog's early win, yeah, but extending through decades of world titles, European championships, Japanese titles, North American wins, that Reedy Race dominance, they've consistently competed and won at the highest levels.
And the Tamiya Racing Factory, TRF, seems absolutely central to that.
Completely. Their whole approach, that commitment to innovation, the race-driven development, gathering data, working closely with top drivers, that's been the engine room.
It wasn't just one magic car or one-star driver.
No. Your sources paint a picture of successfully blending cutting-edge engineering, seen in that constant chassis evolution, adapting to new tech like LiPo and brushless,
Right.
with world-class driving talent and really crucial, strong factory team support. R&D, setup, mechanics, logistics, the whole package.
And this all ties back to their company motto, first in quality. Racing success proves the quality, proves the performance.
And it creates that halo effect we talked about. Winning on Sunday helps sell cars on Monday, so to speak.
How so?
Well, the high-profile racing success enhances Tamiya's reputation overall. And critically, as we saw with the DB01 example, technology and design ideas developed for the elite TRF cars often find their way into the mainstream kits that hobbyists buy.
So enthusiasts get to feel like they own a piece of that racing DNA.
Exactly. It connects the competitive pinnacle with the broader hobby market. It strengthens the brand across the board.
So looking back at everything in the sources, Tamiya's story in RC racing is one of adaptation, commitment.
Both, I'd say. They've shown a remarkable ability to adapt to a constantly changing technological and competitive landscape. And they've shown a deep, ongoing commitment to the spirit of RC racing. They're still a major, influential force.
Okay, great summary. Now for our listeners,
Yeah?
something to think about based on all this.
Yeah, here's one. How does a company globally famous for meticulous, detailed scale models things requiring incredible precision and patience also become a dominant force in the high-speed, high-pressure world of elite RC racing? What is that unique combination of, say, scale, realism, and cutting-edge performance engineering tell us about the core DNA of Tamiya?
That's a good one, the blend of precision and speed. Or maybe consider this. We saw variations in Tamiya's dominance across different regions and classes. Dominant in IFR ISTC for a decade, but maybe a more mixed picture in recent USR or off-road. What factors, market differences, local competition, maybe even track styles might explain why a manufacturer's success can vary so much from one racing arena to another.
Yeah, why isn't success universal across all classes and regions? Lots to chew on there.
Definitely. Well, thank you again for providing such rich source material. This deep dive into Tamiya's racing history was fascinating.